A young Japanese man was found lifeless inside a sewage tank in a women's bathroom. The body was in a bizarre posture. While many believed that he had entered there on his own, several questions doubting this hypothesis are still unanswered, leaving this case to be known as one of the most mysterious in Tamura, Japan. This is the story of Naoyuki Kanno. At around 6 p.m. on February 28, 1989, in the village of Miyakojima, Fukushima, Japan, a 23-year-old teacher named Yumi Tanaka finished her shift and returned to her dormitory within the student complex. In the accommodation, each room had its own bathroom, which was accessible from outside the room. At this time, the buildings were not well developed. In a mountain village, it was common for toilets to be basic, just a hole in the ground where one had to crouch down to use them. These toilets are directly connected to an individual sewage tank. The pipe is U-shaped. One end is used by the user, and the other is the sewage air outlet, which is on the other side of the wall in the open air. The cleaning process is manual. Someone needs to open the system lid to empty the waste from the septic tank. This someone, if not an employee in the company, is the person using the toilet in residential locations. It is worth mentioning that this type of bathroom is still common in some regions of China, as well as in other Asian countries. That night, while using the bathroom, a teacher looked into the toilet hole and noticed an unusual object. Looking closer, she realized it was a shoe. She left the bathroom and opened the lid of the septic tank. She immediately saw a pair of curled-up legs. Disturbed, she ran out screaming for her colleagues. Realizing that someone was inside the tank and was not responding to their calls, they immediately called the police. When the police arrived, they opened the lid and discovered that the person in the bathroom was an adult man, a lifeless body. While the police wanted to pull him out, they couldn't because he was simply unable to be moved. The police mobilized reinforcements from the Fukushima Prefectural Police and 3 firefighters. Even then, it was necessary to use an excavator and a crane to dig up the entire toilet pipe. The man was in a very narrow space, lying on his back with his face turned so that he was looking at the toilet hole. It was like he was positioned to spy on a woman going to the bathroom. The body was bent over, with its hands crossed over its chest, holding a neatly folded coat. His upper body was bare, and he was also barefoot. Initial identification was hampered by the fact that the entire body was covered in human excrement. The body was thoroughly cleaned and his identity revealed. Because it was a region of villages, that is, the place was small and everyone knew each other, the discovery of the body shocked everyone. It was Naoyuki Kanno, a 26-year-old male active member of the club's community who worked at a local plant. He liked music, sports, and viewed life positively. He was concerned about the problems within the village and was very well known by everyone in the region. Naoyuki was known to the teacher through her boyfriend. After the teacher suffered some harassment over the phone, he and her boyfriend helped record some calls and handed them over to the police. Naoyuki had been missing since February 24th and was found dead on the 28th. However, according to the autopsy, he was believed to have died on the 26th. Apart from some small scratches on his elbow and knee, there was no major trauma that would indicate that he had been involved in a physical fight, nor were there any signs of homicide. Without carrying out an in-depth autopsy to check for evidence of inebriation, poisoning, or the ingestion of an illicit substance, the police concluded and closed the case as an accidental death. Naoyuki had tried to spy on the women, became trapped at the scene, and eventually died due to heart failure caused by hypothermia. In Fukushima, it is winter in February, and a septic tank would be extremely cold as it contains liquid waste. Furthermore, on that day, snow was 20 centimeters thick on the ground. The boy's father and the villagers were outraged by this conclusion. Everyone knew Naoyuki very well, and this story didn't match his profile. He was a sociable person, an example to be followed by everyone in the region. They did not accept this accusation of perversion, a man capable of spying on women in their most intimate moments. Afterwards, a forensic doctor also analysed his remains and found that Naoyuki was 1.7 meters tall. According to data released by the Japanese Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, the average shoulder width of men aged 25 to 29 in Japan at that time was 40 centimeters. The diameter of the outer opening of the pit was only 36 centimeters. Therefore, it would be impossible to enter the tube alone without being pushed and end up in the posture he was in when discovered. The internal opening is 20 centimeters. That is, it was practically impossible. And it was from then on that several questions remained. Assuming that Naoyuki was really desperate to spy on women, how could he not know that it was impossible to get into the pipe, much less get out of there unharmed? Besides, who in their right mind would want to go into a septic tank and bathe in feces and urine? If we give him the benefit of the doubt, even if he was really desperate to peek, how would he be able to see in the darkness? And even if someone had killed him, how could they put a big man in such a small space without causing greater damage to his body? Naoyuki was also found barefoot, and there was only one shoe in the pit, the shoe that the teacher saw. The police found the other shoe days later, in the riverbed far from the crime scene. Why did these two shoes appear in such distant places? There were many questions with few answers. Some even suggested that the teacher herself had killed Naoyuki. They could not understand how she could see a shoe inside the dark hole in such a poorly lit bathroom. Could it be that the teacher murdered Naoyuki and wanted to fake an accidental death? However, this speculation could not be substantiated by evidence. According to Naoyuki's father, the night before his disappearance, he attended a community social gathering and left at 1 a.m. But as it was early in the morning and his family members were already asleep, no one saw him arrive home to confirm the time or state in which he arrived. On the morning of the 24th, around 10 a.m. while his father was watching TV, Naoyuki told him that he was leaving to sort out some things, but his father only heard him talking and didn't actually see him. No one saw him again. Naoyuki's absence was not strange to his parents. Their son was in the habit of going out often, and the fact that he did not return for a day or two, especially at the weekend, did not concern the family. However, his lack of contact and the absence of any information began to worry them. February 24, 1989, was a special day for all Japanese people. Emperor Hirohito, who was in power for 63 years, passed away due to illness. The funeral would be held on that day. The entire country took a day off to pay condolences to their sovereign. Coincidentally, February 24th was a Friday, and teacher Yumi took advantage of 3 days off to visit her relatives in another city and did not return to school until Tuesday the 28th. During this period, she would not be in the dormitory. Being her friend, Naoyuki knew about her absence. So how did Naoyuki enter the bathroom on the 24th, knowing that she would only return on the 28th? Two theories have been postulated. One involves a small conspiracy at the nuclear plant where he worked, and the other involves politics. Beginning in 1988, a unit of the Tokyo Electric Power Company's Fukushima nuclear power plant, better known as TEPCO, had frequent failures, sometimes triggering the safety alarm. A welded joint in a reactor pump gave way, causing a huge amount of metal to leak. Eventually, the reactor was shut down, and this shutdown caused enormous losses to the company. The person in charge of the reactor was known as Mr. K and was a good friend of Naoyuki. This fact should have been reported to the government, but was not. In '89, the plant fell under investigation, and no one could say who informed the government about the problem. Strangely, a month after the end of the investigation, Mr. K, who was simply following orders from company executives, took his own life by throwing himself in front of a train. Intriguingly, this employee's death was not reported to any of his co-workers. So there was a doubt in the air that Naoyuki was internally investigating his friend's death, and he had discovered dark things about the company, and that his death had ended up being a second file burning. The second theory, involving politics, tells us that in '89 there would be a disputed election for the village chief. Naoyuki was asked to campaign for one of the candidates, that candidate being the current village chief, a die-hard supporter of the expansion of the Fukushima nuclear power plant. He believed this would benefit the village economically and bring future benefits to the residents. Naoyuki had excellent oratory skills, was known by many in the region, and was an employee of the plant. He campaigned for the village chief to be re-elected. However, the opposition, which was led by another chief from the village, believed that the expansion would cause irreversible damage to the lives of residents and future generations. The two sides were in a complete stalemate. In the midst of partisan tensions, rumors arose that the young man was killed by the opposition, who planned to block the progress of the plant. More than 4,000 residents requested a new, in-depth investigation into the case, but this never happened. It was closed as an accidental death and has remained a mystery since 1989. If you've made it this far, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to this channel. Also, add your opinion in our comments. I will see you in the next case.